No, I have something to say, man. The critics.
Fighting with claws, for God's sake! How?
It doesn't sit well. Like, this is a fantasy.
From what this guy just said. Wonder Woman 1984 has a 59% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, 5.4/10 on IMDb, 60% on Metacritic. And the top voted tags there are boring, overhyped, corny, overrated, forgettable, cringe-worthy. Yeah. Raymond, how do you feel about this?
I say I'm flabbergasted, you know. I take these words dear to my heart because I feel like Wonder Woman wasn't really a bad film, right? It is an average film. It did not live up to the expectations from the first film, but it's not. I don't think it's as bad as how people take it. Like, I feel like people are just kind of hating on this film, and it's fueled by other bad reviews also. So yeah.
I'm going to just probably say something that I have here on my phone. And from what sorry, I almost said the N word.
From what this guy just said, right? I don't think there's an argument here. We're only going to be beaten around the bush because we are literally saying the same thing. But this is what I think, right? I felt like they were trying to recreate the magic from the first film, and they just failed to do so. There was so much, right, that they were trying to fit into one story that was not just working out. Most of the reviews that are like listed there, they are true. Kind of overhyped, kind of boring, and the story was not just fitting the setting at all. I love Patty Jenkins. She's like one of my biggest inspiration, but this film was a no-no for me for obvious reasons. Like I've stated, the story and it was not just going together, right? So at some point I was not even connecting, looking far apart from like the cool visual effects that was like in place, crazy beginning. That's another conversation, but like story was not just it for me because they were trying to do a lot all at once, and at some point they just found themselves inside this desert.
Okay, so now, but the thing is, I mean, like, fudge the critics.
Do you have anything to say?
No, I have something to say, man.
Alright,
Fudge the critics, and I'm not talking about us, right? But like, but the thing is, okay, so now, before I saw Wonder Woman, I had seen a lot of stuff, even though I kind of avoided it. I believe that this guy actually saw more bad things about that film than me, right? So I'm watching the film as a filmmaker, and I'm realizing like, what is so wrong? I saw the trailer of Wonder Woman, right? I'm big fan of the first movie, like a lot of people. And I saw the trailer of Wonder Woman, and I see Chris Pine's character, and I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, oh Jesus Christ, and I'm like, why are they bringing this guy back? And I have noticed this thing with like a lot of mainstream movies where they tend to bring back like all these popular faces in one weird and cheesy way. But everybody, no, I speak for myself only, that we're all wondering, no, I was wondering how Chris Pine would come back in this film, right? I think that actually affected a lot of people, right? If the Chris Pine dynamic was not there, I don't know, maybe the film might have been reacted to very differently. I did not have a problem with Cheetah's design. I thought it was cool, right? Except for the weird CG movement. I did not have a problem with the Wish storyline, right? Because we're set in a fantasy world. Like, these films are set in a fantasy world, so these kind of things can just happen. Like even Wonder Woman herself, she's a fantasy. So right, so them wishing for things to happen and it happens, it's not something that we should all be. It doesn't sit well. Like this is a fantasy. Some moments did not add up for me, and to be honest, Pedro Pascal actually did so well in that film. Like I liked his performance as the wish god, and they made use of those extras really, really well and stuff. But I would just say this thing, and it's contrary to people's opinion, but contrary to is a very unpopular opinion, and I think that The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan wasn't a bad film. The same way I feel that Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't a bad film.
But don't you think these films are bad already? Because you're already trying to say they are not bad films. Like, if they are not bad films, like everybody will know that they are not bad films. But like you're putting these bad films in one category and say they are not bad because you know that they are bad.
Okay, so now this is how I felt about M. Night Shyamalan's film. So I saw The Last Airbender before I actually saw the cartoons, right? Or I had seen like a glimpse of the animation, and I saw it when I was younger, and it was one of the best things that happened to me at the moment. Like I was so happy after seeing that particular film. I was so happy after seeing The Last Airbender, right? To the extent when I watched the animation, I was like, a lot of things are correlating. Like the same thing that happened in the animation is the same thing that's happening in the film. Now I grew up a couple of years later, and I'm hearing that Last Airbender is not well received by people, and I'm like, why? Like if we could just ignore, if we did not hear like anything that any other person said, right? Like we'll kind of enjoy these films.
I want to actually say something, and for a fact, this guy has literally beat around the bush throughout his conversation. I don't know what brought Last Airbender. Who is talking about Last Airbender here? This is what I'm going to say here, about. Wonder Woman 1985 happened 60 years, right? After we saw the first Wonder Woman. This is 60 goddamn years. 60 years as Gal Gadot being Wonder Woman in the world. And now they are showing us Wonder Woman, right? What I expected was to show us the story of this particular strong character that has literally grown in a world where she like literally was not familiar with kind of growing up, because she just come into the world and now she's living 60 years. And all of a sudden we have these weird characters popping up from everywhere. We have Cheetah, of course, is like her arch nemesis in the comics, and then we have this weird guy which is Pedro Pascal. All respects to him, he's a very good actor. But I felt like these characters were so unnecessary. I'm saying this as like I'm looking at this as a writer, from the perspective of a writer, someone who sit down and construct a story. All of these characters were so unnecessary. It's like having access to every single thing you can create a meal with, and just dipping everything into the pot without actually even thinking to some extent. This is what I think they could have actually done, yeah? Cheetah is a very, very, very strong character. They rushed the nemesis thing between both of them in this two, and that was why it seemed so off. All of a sudden, she's a nerd, and all of a sudden, she is fighting with claws, for God's sake! How? How is she fighting with... Like, it doesn't make any sense. This is what I think they could have done. A 3 obviously is going to come. That is definitely going to happen. Wonder Woman 3 is going to come. Now Cheetah is a perfect character for a villain, because why? What they could have done is establish a relationship between her and Cheetah in 2, and probably give Pedro Pascal the light he already had. So can you see where I'm coming from? Everything is conflicting, and it's just it's one big mess of a meatball, bruh. I'll be freaking lying if I said they did not kill the costumes. Like what she wore throughout the film, I was noticing it. The suits and everything, it was going well. I can't say the same for Chris Pine. It was actually intentional to make him look like a kind of like a junk looking human being. He was not like used to the world and stuff. But she was killing her dress. Like she was killing every single thing she was wearing. And the Wonder Woman costumes, they were beautiful also. For the VFX, I do not have a problem with it. There were cool sequences that were happening. Egypt was like my favorite. She was stopping trucks, she was going through trucks, she was flying everywhere. It was beautiful, it played out well. I do not have a problem with that. What I have a problem with, yes, is the story. I read somewhere about Warner Bros. actually not wanting that first scene to happen, because this is what I think about first scene. What people see first in your film is going to be like a guiding principle of like how they are going to like take how the other films like progress. Now the message I got from the first scene was, if anybody who has watched it literally can actually remember, Diane was cutting corners to actually achieve a goal she should have followed a particular way to get. And now I thought that was going to be like the guiding principle. I was like, okay, let's see what's going to happen here. And then all of a sudden, what we are seeing here is, do not expect more from people. It's confusing. It's not like the theme it's not matching.
Truth be told, I think the major aim for big blockbuster movies is to make money, right? If the film is opportune to have a good storyline, then fine, that is an extra addition. It helps them make more and more money, right? The funny thing, I know that if Wonder Woman was kind of like released, like not in the pre-COVID era, right, this film might still make more than $500 million, right, despite like all the negative reviews and stuff like that, right? So part of it is I know that their aim is to make money. Now, was their aim to make a good film? I think so. It might have been conflicting, right? You understand? But I kind of look at these films by in comparison with some other films that have come out that are cheesy, right? And they are not like blasted like this film is, right? If I've seen a film like Hobbs and Shaw is not a very stellar movie. Like Wonder Woman, I would prefer to watch Wonder Woman than to see Hobbs and Shaw.
I prefer to not watch any.
But Hobbs and Shaw it made $1 billion, right? Or almost $1 billion and stuff like that, right? But Hobbs and Shaw, I don't think it wasn't blasted as how Wonder Woman 1984 was. Yeah. So I'm like, why Wonder Woman 1984? For God's sake. Like I personally feel like it's DC number one. 2, it's a woman that directed the film. 3, it's a woman that steers in the films. Like these 3 factors kind of affect this film in general. Like for every DC film that comes out, right, people try to find a way to say that this film is bad. For most DC films that come out, and I feel like they are doing the same thing for Wonder Woman 1984. I do not say Wonder Woman 1984 is a good film. Mm-mm. I do not say it's a good film. Okay. I say that it's an average film.
Wow.
Right, you understand? But I feel like the 8 is receiving is not necessary.
That topic is a very broad topic that one should be very careful speaking about. For many reasons, yes. We are getting to 2021, and there's still not a very big. People are not still big on inclusions because they see it as them having less jobs. I'm talking about men specifically. I said it from the very beginning. I'm a very huge fan of Patty Jenkins, but looking at films from like a very critical aspect, I thought they could have done more story-wise, right? But this is why I think women obviously get unnecessary hate in cinema generally. We saw it with Captain Marvel, right? So Captain Marvel actually was not well received by the male audience to some extent because she was not the hero everybody thought. She was not like the quiet or loving hero everybody thinks she's going to be. Like it spreads across all various forms of cinema, like acting wise, right? The girl who did Star Wars, Daisy Ridley was bullied out of social media. Literally, she had to delete her social media account because fanboys could not outgrow the fact that a female character was coming to Star Wars. So these things are there. They are very, 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 very broad topics that need to be like obvious conversation needs to be had on. So I think it's obviously affected, of course. But Patty Jenkins, she's a filmmaker. She's a very good filmmaker. There are people who throw films without a reason. There's somebody who's like hired somewhere to just say the film is bad. But me, I'm actually highlighting what I thought was wrong with the film. Right? I'm not saying this is like bad because a woman made it. I actually enjoyed Captain Marvel.
If you're a fan of cool fight scenes, action scenes, girl power, Go and see Wonder Woman 1984.
If you're a fan of cool visual effects,
You say what I said in another
with
word.
action sequences, and beautiful costume designs, I think Wonder Woman is your film. It's very, very powerful to some extent.
But you just said something now that got me thinking. A good filmmaker. You say it's about making a good film and a good filmmaker. But is there a thing like a good filmmaker? Because also, is there a thing like a bad filmmaker also?
What if you've had 5 films and all your films are bad?
So people
A bad
literally,
filmmaker,
literally judge you by like your track record, like your list. So if you have bad films, you have films that have gone to Razzie Awards back to back to back. Obviously, people would think like you're a bad filmmaker. But if you have films that like have reputations and stuff, so I don't know. That's like the basic way. It's literally the same way. If you are a TV repairer and 5 men complain that they bring TV call your shop and TV blast. Yeah, so it's like it's literally how they judge everything in life. So I don't know. But Patty Jenkins, like, she has name, she has done the work to some extent. Okay, this is it. This is the message I got from the beginning. Like I said, Diane was young, the youngest warrior. She overcame some like level of trials and stuff, and then she got to a point where she had to cut corners. And then the woman that came up to her was like, "Do not cut corners, Diane. I saw you cut corners. That's like you have failed. That's it." And now, the message I got personally, as someone who writes, in that ending is, be careful what you wish for. Right? That is the message I got. And it was not making any sense in my head. Probably not dragon with saying one go defeat. And then we come down to say, okay, now one kind of jollof rice competition, you guys just go for.
Which kind of No, the funny thing is that the funny thing is for the be careful not what you wish for part. Be careful what you wish for part, right? The message from the beginning, where the mama tell her, where her auntie tell her, it actually vibes with what happened, right? Because
It doesn't.
nothing comes easy, right? Nothing comes easy, especially for somebody like you with so much responsibility. It was their indirect way of saying with much responsibility comes great power. No, with great power comes much responsibility. And so, but they had to add their own DC touch to it.
Dark touch. It's too weak. I am not going to lose you again.
Wonder Woman. Lovely. It's lovely. You know? Then my rating is 5.5. Yeah, over 10.
So for me, my one word would be long. My rating would be so my rating actually it was going to it's literally going to be I'm going to give them a solid 4.5. Hello guys, this video was proudly sponsored by NYTimes.
Ariwatis. Yes, I'm presently wearing an Ariwatis t-shirt now, and you can see how beautiful it is. To get this type of shirt, you can go to their website www.ariwatis.com. They ship worldwide, just so you know, and they have an Instagram page that you can follow at Ariwatis. Please show them love and support.
Yes,
Thank you very
yes.
much.
NYTimes.
Alright, jeez.